A Louisiana mayor is going to jail for trying to be like Diddy. Yeah, you heard that right. One of the youngest mayors in Louisiana history. Mayor of Bogalusa in Louisiana, Mayor Tyrin Truong, has just been arrested and unfortunately released for being connected to human sex trafficking organizations, which is actually a problem in Louisiana. This arrest leads to ramifications of the entire network, and I believe it's going to break down every single person that's important, every lawyer, every politician that is utilizing the trafficking networks. We're going to dive into some pretty dark stuff on this episode, including what I believe is being done in these trafficking networks, the sacrificing of, we'll have to get into that. Stay tuned.
Is breaking news.
Good afternoon. I'm Liz Reyes. Thanks for joining us. Breaking at this hour, the mayor of Bogalusa, the youngest in the city's history, gets arrested and now faces some serious charges. At noon, the Washington Parish Sheriff's Office releasing the mugshot of Tyrin Truong. Fox 8 Rob Masson, he is live right now. The charges the mayor now faces. Rob.
Yeah, Liz, we're coming to you live from the Bogalusa City Hall, where state police just arrived about 15 minutes ago. About a half dozen troopers went into the City Hall annex, and they are executing search warrants around Bogalusa in this wide-ranging scheme. The street here in front of the Bogalusa City Hall is...
Now, I do have some very unfortunate news about this situation. This mayor is a Democrat. He's a liberal. And it seems like liberals have been constantly getting connected to these trafficking networks. Now, I want to start diving into the importance of Babylonian gods. And while this plays, it doesn't matter if you believe in a religion or not. What I'm about to express, that there are very powerful people that do. I want you guys, while we're playing this video, and we're going to come around to this, and I'm going to go ahead and grill this whole thing up. But I want you guys to think way back in religious times, there were groups of people that would use trafficking networks, but for sacrifice, out of purposes for their religious deity. Those days aren't far gone. The only difference is that they transitioned from putting robes on in the forest to having underground bunkers and suits. And I know this sounds crazy, but I am an individual that has been fortunate and unfortunate enough to find out very, very, very dark truths about the world. So much so that I used to expose this stuff on X every day, and then I went radio silent. It's not because I stopped wanting to free the children. It's not because I stopped caring about trafficking. It's because my actual life was threatened. And I'm going to start revealing that more and more because I have a better understanding of the world. And more importantly, I have a better understanding of how to stay alive while doing these things. I was just a regular American citizen sounding off what I believe is true, what I believe was important. And arrests like these further validate that very powerful people are doing some of the most nefarious things, and the media will never break down what it's actually connected to. They'll make it seem like they're just trying to do this out of love of the money. It's a little bit deeper than that in most situations, and when you see politicians arrested, it's typically more than just sexual advances.
Is blocked off by Bogalusa police. There are a lot of residents gathered around here, somewhat in shock at these developments, because they believe Mayor Truong is a very popular mayor and someone who they believe has been facing a lot of opposition here in Bogalusa since he was elected as the state's youngest mayor about 2 years ago. But now he is sitting in a Franklinton jail, charged in a scheme involving as many as 11 others. About a half dozen members of the Louisiana State Police came to City Hall just a short while ago, now executing those search warrants. The state police says a violent crime task force had been looking into allegations for the past year. They allege that Tyrin Truong and as many as 10 others are involved in a scheme to use social media to distribute controlled dangerous substances like opioids, high-grade marijuana, and ecstasy. The allegations also include charges related to the use of public funds to procure a hotel room.
I just hate how it's always blacks that get into politics and somehow find their hands in the people's money. Nigga, if you a Negro, keep your hands to yourself, because they already think we steal every damn thing, my dog. We got to be doing better when it comes to our optics, bro. And then you a trafficker, He's extremely young. He was put in position. Democrats was right behind him. And if you guys look into the story, the police have already said more arrests are coming. That's going to shock people. What does this remind me of? It reminds me of a honeypot sting operation that happened around Pentagon. Do you guys remember that? Where very, very influential professors, very influential politicians were arrested. There was about 189 arrests connected to Pentagon workers. Completely vanished. These are the things I'm talking about. They can post the news because they say it gets too far, but they won't break into it and focus on it the same way they do it Luigi Mangione or any of the Tesla Trump bombings. They romanticize antagonists, but they don't do the same for traffickers, because it leads, in some cases, it leads back to their investors or owners of the entire firms.
Involving a prostitute. The Attorney General's office says they are determined to crack down on public corruption, but some Bogalusa residents are skeptical.
I believe Tyrin has the capability of dealing with prostitution. He has a beautiful girlfriend, has a child. He's from a great family. He's always been an upright young man. He has his head on his shoulders. That's not something that he would put in his past to taint his record for his future.
I think it's a tragedy. You know, people had a lot of hopes in him as a young up-and-comer who might be able to provide leadership. And certainly that area needs it. And I think it's just, you know, it's disappointing. It's beyond disappointing when a public official lets you down that way.
And that was Attorney General Liz Muriel speaking in New Orleans just a short while ago. Her office actively involved in this investigation. Washington Parish DA Colin Sims says many...
And I'm sure it'll come to the surprise of nobody, he also was a race baiter. They typically have these politicians that have nothing to offer but a narrative, and they sometimes be the worst people because they aren't put into a position of power to lead, but they put in a position of power to maintain the power that already exists before them. They're there to regurgitate narratives and to maintain systems. They aren't there to break anything. They aren't there to be the antagonist. They aren't there to be a revolutionary. So they'll get some unqualified young individual that has it all to gain, not too much to lose. And they put them in a suit, in a tie, give them narratives to spill while they actually commit crimes behind the American taxpayer dollar. This isn't the only trafficking network leading to an elected politician. It's just one of the only ones they're talking about.
Search warrants are still being executed. In fact, that is what's going on here at Bogalusa City Hall. 3 others have been arrested, but as many as 10 others might also be arrested as the day goes on. I spoke to Mayor Truong's mother just a short while ago. She believes the charges against her son are bogus. She says family members are now at the Franklinton Parish Jail trying to figure out a way to help him make bond. We don't know what the bond has been set at this point, but they are trying to...
Now, let's say this is one of the few times where a mother is right and her baby ain't do nothing. It's just weird that Democrats will go after someone that's only really popular in his area. We see that with Mayor Eric Adams. I haven't seen anything about him speaking out against Democrats, and I'm saying he's a woke politician, and I have a video to prove that. He just pushes more racism BS on the cameras. So I'm saying that to say this. It looks like he was someone that was working with the DNC, didn't have problems with the DNC, and it makes it a little bit harder just for me, looking at the history of the DNC, to feel like they're setting her baby up. But they're in Louisiana. Louisiana is supposedly pretty corrupt, like Chicago in some ways in the politics. Anything is possible. All of this is just allegations until this man officially will go to jail and be sentenced.
Figure that one out. We understand that the mayor is being represented by the city attorney. We have reached out to him for comment, but have not heard back. That's a story from Bogalusa where Mayor Tyrin Truong is now under arrest. I'm Rob Manson, Fox 8 Local First. Liz, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
Is able to obtain some video of his arrest. There were Louisiana State Police officers that pulled up to...
So here is more information, and this is footage that just came out a few hours ago. It's showing him being released. So he was actually able to secure that bond, and he's going to be fighting for his innocence. Now, for the viewer, Do you think he's innocent? Does he look like someone? I mean, he doesn't look like the typical trafficker, but he does look like someone that is able to manipulate a lot of young, impressionable women.
Truong's
Justin Trudeau, if you may.
home this morning. According to Louisiana State Police, Truong was booked on multiple charges, including drug trafficking, soliciting prostitutes, and unauthorized use of a car. Investigators say Truong could be involved in an alleged drug trafficking organization that was selling drugs through social media. And they say at least 6 others who may have ties were also arrested. For now, City Council President Gloria Kate was taking over. So like I mentioned, it'd be interesting to see if Truong will be arriving to the City Council meeting tonight. That was one of the questions I asked him as he left. But like I said, he was definitely in a rush to get to the car. But he does have, a number of supporters. When we arrived to City Hall this morning, just hours after his arrest, his supporters beat us to it. They all are claiming that he is innocent. So we'll be following this story as
He has more supporters than Diddy.
it progresses, and we'll keep you updated every step of the way. Reporting live from Washington Parish, Amelia Strahan, WWL, Louisiana.
All right, Amelia, thank you for that update. We will, of course, continue to cover this story into the evening. We have enough.
As I expect the media, they want to focus on the drugs more than the prostitution. And guys, be very aware. You know I like to always break down how the media utilize words to try to manipulate the masses. Well, they do it again. They constantly say the word prostitution, prostitution, prostitution. And they say that to elicit an emotion that, oh, it's just grown women who made their own choices. When they use the word prostitute, unfortunately, you automatically become less sympathetic. But if they say victims of trafficking, you'll start viewing it as, I wonder how many young girls are there. I'm telling you guys, media manipulation, I'm worried about even releasing this video. Media manipulation in terms of protecting these type of people, the trafficking organizations, is absolutely unreal. And I spent the last 2 years studying this stuff. There's no reports going into any of the victims, so you just call them prostitutes. And they'll typically do this in political or people that's of power get convicted or accused of any type of trafficking. If it be a nobody that holds no power, it'll be facing trafficking charges and they'll say victim, victim, victim. But if you're rich and powerful, you're prostitutes now. Pay very attention to the wording. Don't fall for the narrative. We break them.
Another crew heading to tonight's Bogalusa City Council meeting right now. And we'll hope to get more from town officials as they respond to the arrest. We'll bring you more on that coming up tonight at 10.
This particular threat has a racial undertone, alluding to how black men's bodies were dumped in bodies of water in the South by terrorists decades ago.
Yeah, this is him.
Violence of any kind has no place in a...
Talking about black people being dumped in rivers decades ago for no reason whatsoever, when he's supposed to be addressing the current problems of his state. And this is why I say this doesn't look like the type of individual that Democrats want to set up. They keep people like him locked up, put in a jar, and bring them out every 4 years every time they need a riot about black and whites. These aren't the type of people that Democrats like to get rid of. He matches the profile. He's young, well-spoken. Why would they set him up? So it would tell me it's outside of the Democrat Party. And it also tells me that if he is set up, it's someone that's more powerful than anyone in his district, because his policies, his politics didn't protect him. His connections. He already got the state attorney. So he has connections, and he has parts of the government that is willing to fight for him. To me, it reeks of suspicion, because they could also be allegedly complicit. I mean, is it wrong to think that they're going to protect their own? Had he been a conservative, would he get the same grace?
Civil society. This is not a banana republic. Whether it's me, a staffer, a code enforcement officer, the threat of violence simply for doing your job is unacceptable. If you want to come to a council meeting and throw a tantrum, if you want to post on a Facebook group to complain, be my guest. But once you threaten bodily harm to another person, you've gone too far. I have filed a police report with the Bogalusa Police Department, and the District Attorney's Office and Louisiana State Police have opened an investigation. Threatening an elected official is a crime under Revised Statute 14. We will be implementing additional security measures here at City Hall, including but not limited to a security camera system, swipe card system, and metal detectors at the entrances of the building. But let's not delude ourselves. Threats like these derive from constant lies, misinformation, and propaganda. We must all do what we can to ensure that these
And I'm to think that he's being set. Okay.
elements don't thrive in the city, especially through social media groups. These groups are anti-progress and anti-Bogalusa.
Top story tonight, January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month in local.
And as I said, it's been a problem in Louisiana that's been swept under the rugs. Look, 2 years ago, they reported on this very, very shocking report. Louisiana has been one of the states that needs a thorough cleansing in terms of the trafficking. And it's unfortunately thanks to the history with the French, with migrants, and location. So with the trafficking situation, any location around bodies of water are great hubs for trafficking. And unfortunately in the South as well. Because when you think of trafficking organizations, a lot of people, they think about up north. So since it's where people expect it, they're going to set up their organizations in states and cities outside of perception. And unfortunately, to the surprise of many, and people know Republicans are very hard on child predators and things like that. But Louisiana has a very serious problem, and it's had one for decades.
Are encouraged to know the signs of trafficking and how it affects the state in Ouachita Parish.
NBC 10's Maya Hudgens back from talking with police and state officials on why this is such an important topic. Maya?
Michelle Bodie, human trafficking happens right here in Ouachita Parish. According to the Department of Children and Family Services, in 2018, 5 minors were trafficked out of Monroe, and another 10 Monroe natives were taken while visiting another city.
This is something that's always in the back of my mind, especially as a female.
Human trafficking happens everywhere, even in the city you call home.
Do you think of human trafficking in big cities, like big cities, New Orleans, Dallas, Atlanta, those kind of cities? Unfortunately, it happens here.
The Department of Children and Family Services says in 2018, over 700 people in Louisiana were reported to have become victims of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, or both.
A more startling statistic, though, is that of those victims, 428 were juveniles, and that was a 20%.
You see what I'm talking about?
The year before.
And it's an increase. With that, it was 20% increase, and over 400 of them juvenile. And that will always be glanced over. Look, like clockwork, I was just talking about this. Why is that not the opening headline? That 400 children were victims, in addition to 400 adults. Imagine the public perception if that was the way the article was released. It's time for us to start speaking up. It keeps me up at night, and I'm tired of not talking about it. I'm tired of it not being exposed. I need to expose the wording. I need to expose the media. I need to get back into my essence and break narratives.
Uptick in trafficking because criminals have learned that a victim can be sold over and over again, making it a cost-effective crime. The DCFS says in 2018 they had people trafficked from the age of 5 months to 65 years old.
This is a problem that does not discriminate.
Mind you,
community does not
5 months years old. Some of the youngest victims were 5 fucking months years old. We're talking about children that just recently learned how to open their eyes, and that's their experience on this planet. Man, it just fucking, it pisses me off to know that this happening. And I can't help but think about all kind of random things at once. So I can find myself just eating dinner and getting disturbed and not being able to finish my meal because I'm thinking of some. When you know too much, you can never close your eyes again. When you're truly awake, you can never sleep again. And that's just how I feel. I've never really been able to sleep like I used to until I enter this world and start seeing what's going on behind the world stage. Children are being sacrificed at these young ages for their energies. If you look all the way back in Babylonian times, they would sacrifice children for blessings to deities Moloch and Baal. There was never once a time in human history where they claimed those religions were eradicated. And it completely shocked me to find out these things were still going on. But it's about the energies that's emitted from it and the amount of adrenaline that's emitted from people that are under that type of abuse. And it's extracted and it's used to help maintain youth. There's several media companies, several media implications of this, several movies, from South Park all the way down to Rick and Morty. And I feel like with the Trump administration, it's time to go ahead and head to where these victims are. A lot of them, unfortunately, are underground. Some never even seen the light. But it's time to start exposing these things everywhere, including on YouTube. And I'm going to try to do this in an appropriate way and be very careful with my words.
Discriminate on financial status, age, race. It is an overall problem.
Louisiana State Police say these criminals use multiple tactics to lure unsuspecting victims. Anything from asking for help to outright kidnapping. Traffickers look for people who are alone or disconnected from their families. Trooper Reichardt says use any means necessary to save your life.
Scream, holler, kick, hit, bite, whatever you have to do to get away.
It can happen to anyone, so I feel like it's very important to be aware of your surroundings.
Officials say being aware of trafficking information and signs could save your life. Louisiana State Police.
Absolutely insane. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. This is the second video for the day as promised. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Help us get up this view count, and I'm going to keep dropping the content. I'm loving your content. I'm sorry, loving your comments. It's keeping me super motivated. I'm sorry, this topic always just kind of like does something to me because I've read a lot, y'all. I've read a lot. I've seen a lot. Including anyone I talk to, I would tell them, like, you know, this isn't information I want to share with anyone, and I don't share this. Not with my close family, not with my friends, because I feel like it's a curse, and I don't share with individuals that can't immediately do anything about it. It gives you a lot of trauma. But we're going to fight for them. And we're about to break this age-old cycle of worship and sacrifice and bring this nation back to God. There's a war going on behind the scenes in the world stage. And it's time to fight for it. More of this to come. I can only say so much, obviously, but more to come, that I promise you. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me beat a dead horse. Boom. Click the notification bell to stay updated on the next post. Until we break the next narrative, good night.